How professionals take their profits tax efficiently. So let's imagine John bought £100,000 property, 75,000 mortgage, 25,000 equity in the house. The market goes up by 20%, so the £100,000 property becomes worth £120,000. And let's assume John went back to the bank and went, my house has gone up in value. Can I please borrow 75% of the new value? I've increased my rent to pay for the cost. And the bank says, of course you can, John. Now, so he pays off his old mortgage of £75,000 and he's left with £15,000 that the bank puts back into his current account. That's released equity. There are three things here that I want you to notice. The first thing, even though he's borrowed more money, his equity is still higher than it was to start with. And he continues to do so throughout the years. The second thing that really excites me here is called the compound effect. Next time when it goes up by 20%, it's not 20% of 100, it's 20% of 120. So it goes up £24,000. The next time he can release £18,000, and the time after that he can release 21,600. This release is inflation proof. Now, more on that in a minute. Now, the third thing here is that it's one of the most beautiful things that puts it all together. The money that gets released, the money you've borrowed, there's no tax to pay on it because it's not an income. You've borrowed the money and it's tax free. So let's imagine John buys this house and buys a second one, and it starts with two, and they go up by 20%. He releases 15 from one house, 15 from another one. He's got 30. Guess what John does with his tax-free 30 grand? He buys a third house. Now he's got three houses going up. They need to go up for about 13%, and then he can release the money and buy a fourth. And when he's got four houses going up, they need to go up by 10%, and then he releases and he can buy a fifth one. So if he's got five and they go up by 8%, he then can buy a sixth one. Then he's got six and they all go up by 7%, he buys a seventh, and on and on. So the faster you get there, the faster and faster you get there. So the sooner you start, the sooner you get there. So let's imagine John does this and he builds his portfolio. And if you've watched my previous video on house price data, you remember I said let's be cautious and let's assume 5% per annum growth. Not 7.9 what it is, but 5%. So 10 years from now, we meet John, and John's properties have gone up by 5%. Even without compounding, they're worth about £150,000 each. By the way, just starting with two, he would have nine by now. So nine. So we meet John in 10 years from now. He started with two, but he's now got nine. He's got £1.4 million and nine properties worth 150 grand each. So 1.4 million. He's got £1.4 million and nine properties worth £150,000 each. 1.4 million. He's got a million of mortgages, but this is good debt. The tenants are paying for it. And these properties are making him about £200 a month each. So £25,000 a year, and he's got about £350,000 in equity. Now I meet John and say to John, how's it going? He says, I'm delighted with where it is, but I've got to tell you, Olsie, nine is enough for me. You know, I wanted to get some properties, but nine is enough. And I go, yeah, that's cool. So a year later, property market has gone up, and it's gone up another 5% to be cautious. And I meet John again and I say, John, great news. Your property is worth 1.4 million. Now it's worth 1.47. It's gone up £70,000 in value. You could release the money and buy some more properties. Now John says, that's great, Olsie, but you're forgetting what I told you. 9 is enough. I don't want any more. So my response is, yeah, that's great, no problem. Still release the money, just like you have done in the last 10 years to grow your portfolio. But instead, now release the money and spend on a holiday, on a car, uh, go away, take your family with you, um, you know, do what we need to do with the money, and release like £50,000 tax free. Is like £70,000 before tax. Now, the beauty of inflation means because it's compound effect, the next year you can release £55,000 and the year after that, £58,000. So he's theoretically on £52,000 a year for the rest of his life, inflation proof. Now, who wants some of that? And what's beautiful is that you're paying no tax on it. Now, that's crazy. Now, a couple of things. The property market does not go up at 5% each year steadily like that. We've got peaks and troughs like we talked about in my previous video of the house price data. So when it goes up by 10%, John has to be clever. He has to say, you know what? I've been able to release £104,000 in 1 year, but I budgeted for 52. So I spent 52 and the other 52 I'll put on a contingency pot. And he has 4 or 5 years on double digits, like some places, some cities in UK have had recently. And he builds that into his contingency pot. Then the market might go flat for 5 years, so 0% growth. And then he can't release anything. But he lives off the extra money that he's put onto his pot. And on average, it goes up by 5% a year. That's on average. But if it doesn't, John won't be able to release anything. Now you might say, also, it sounds amazing, but I only need £30,000 tax free. But I've got to say, I'm a bit more cautious and I only believe in 4%. I'd rather go at 4% rather than 7.5% of the average that it is. So let's go with that. That's fine. £30,000 tax free at 4%, you need £40,000 of growth at 4%, which means you need £1 million portfolio to retire or to live on. So you know exactly what the size that you need. Now, Emma over there might say, do you know what, 30,000? Are you kidding me? I need 60,000 a year. I fly all over the world. I need my money. So Emma wants 60,000. But also, she says, I want to be cautious at 4%. So we know £60,000 tax free means 80,000 here and 4% here. So Emma now releases 2 million. Emma needs a £2 million portfolio. She knows exactly what she needs. Once you get this, you can plug in your own numbers, and then here you go. You got your vision there. You know how much money you need to make. But what's great is that you're tax efficient, but you know where you need to get in terms of portfolio size when you're finished. Now, hope that made sense.